Going on YouTube, it's your boy Courtney Thompson back. I really do appreciate you all giving me comments, feedback on my page. Today I'm really just going to make a real quick video about the skin tone of Jesus. Now, personally, I do not believe Jesus was a black person. I believe Jesus was a Palestinian Jew that would have looked like ancient Palestinians. Yes, he would have been a person of color, but a person of color does not necessitate black. There's really a few things I need to get across in light of this point. Number one, nowhere in the Gospels, which are the biographies of Jesus, nowhere in the Gospels do you actually see a physical description of Jesus. Like, no one's talking about, oh, his hair is of this texture, this coarse, or his hair feels like this, his hair is silky like that. You don't find anything like that. You don't find anything about his physical appearance, his hair attire. You don't find anything like that. So a lot of that is speculated. We also don't find any physical description of what his skin tone looked like. A lot of people like to go to the book of Revelation to try to point to Jesus being black. But when you go to the book of Revelation, you end up finding out that Jesus isn't black. You find out that they're using terminology which originally was describing the Ancient of Days and his majesty and his high-ranking stature and being the judge and things of that nature, being attributed to Jesus in the book of Revelation. When you find these things happening, that's actually when you are better able to understand the divinity of Christ according to the scriptures. You also have to remember that these texts are coming from the book of Daniel, chapter 7. Please read Daniel chapter 7 before you get to the book of Revelation, because you will not understand what Revelation is talking about. Daniel is not talking about God being a man. It gives a physical description of what the Father looked like, and it also gives it gives some description of what the one like the Son of Man looked like. Notice that the Ancient of Days is never identified as being one like the Son of Man. But it is interesting because the status, the elevated nature of the one like a Son of Man, able to receive worship in heaven, service in heaven, from the people of every tribe, nation, and tongue, that is a very divine status. And that is exactly what is given to the one like a Son of Man in the book of Daniel. He is given such a status in the heavenly courts where he would be revered by people of every nation, tongue, and dialect. So the other reason why it's very important to recognize that the ethnicity of Jesus or the skin tone of Jesus is irrelevant is due to this fact also. Jesus saved through his work on the cross all people. Doesn't matter your ethnicity. Jesus made it applicable and applicable for everybody, no matter if you're a Jew or a Gentile, if you're from the land or if you're from another nation, going. So this is just the basic teaching of Jesus. This is the basic teaching of the scripture. And my last point is, if you really want to look at the skin tone of the individuals that are identified as Jesus' descendants in the scripture, you have passages that talk about Daniel, and the passages that talk about, not Daniel, David, and passages that talk about David identify David as being red or ruddy. So taking that in consideration, he would have been more or less the same skin tone as his ancient descendant David. Jesus was not black. Jesus might have been a person of color, but he was not black. It is absolutely irrelevant for people to try to emphasize Jesus being black in order to try to give black people some type of extra self-esteem in light of what's going on in their plight, their daily life. We don't have to make Jesus what we are in order for Jesus to be who he is. Thank you. You all have a good day. Blessings.